From the phone in your pocket to the browser you're using right now, open source software is pretty much the invisible engine that runs our entire digital world. But what keeps that engine running smoothly and, fairly? Well, it all boils down to licensing, the legal DNA of the code. So let's get into it and unlock the rules that govern this whole world of open source.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the philosophical fight that kicked this whole thing off. Then we'll nail down what open source actually means, check out the two major philosophies behind it, get into the nitty-gritty rules, and then wrap up by looking at how all of this affects the software you're using and building today.
To really get open source, you first have to understand what it was fighting against. And this wasn't just some technical argument among programmers. No, it was a full-blown rebellion, a real fight for the freedom to create and share knowledge. And this right here perfectly sums up the core conflict. On one side, you've got proprietary software, which is basically a locked box. The creators hold the only key, and you can't see inside. But on the other side, you have open source. It's like an open toolbox. Everyone is invited to look inside, use the tools, and hey, even add their own. Now, this didn't just happen overnight. The stage was really set back in 1974 when code officially became protectable by copyright. That basically created the locked box industry. But by 1983, people like programmer Richard Stallman started to push back. And that pushback grew into a movement that eventually got its name in 1999 with the creation of the Open Source Initiative. This quote is everything. It gets right to the heart of the idea. See, when Stallman said free, he wasn't talking about the price tag. He was talking about liberty, the freedom to study, to change, and to share software, just like we have the freedom to express and share ideas. It's an absolutely crucial distinction. Okay, so let's move on. This whole rebellion needed a constitution, right? A set of rules that everyone could agree on. So what exactly makes a piece of software open source? At its core, the definition is actually pretty straightforward. Open source software, or OSS, is just code that's built through collaboration. And the key words here are the freedoms. Freedom to use it, to look at it, to change it, and to share it. It's all about that cycle of community-driven improvement. But here's something that trips a lot of people up. Open source is not the same thing as public domain. Think of it like this. Public domain is the Wild West, a total free-for-all, no rules. Open source, on the other hand, it has a framework. It has a license that clearly lays out the rules for how you can use and share the code. In fact, the Open Source Initiative laid out this 10-point Bill of Rights for software. For any license to be considered truly open source, it has to check every single one of these boxes. And the goal is to guarantee those fundamental freedoms we talked about, making sure the code is always available, that it can be shared and modified, and that the license can't be used to discriminate against anyone or any field. It's a really comprehensive framework for fairness. Okay, now we get to the really fascinating part. Because inside the world of open source, there's this major philosophical split. And it all comes down to one big question. What are your obligations when you use and modify someone else's code? This question leads us straight to the two main families of open source licenses. So, what is the difference between copyleft and permissive? Let's break this down with a little analogy. A copyleft license? That's like a community cookbook. If you take a recipe and you make it better, you have to contribute your new and improved version back to the cookbook for everyone else to enjoy. The whole idea is to preserve that freedom for all future users. A permissive license, on the other hand, is like getting a free recipe with absolutely no strings attached. You can tweak it, you can keep your changes private, you can even sell your new version in your own cookbook. It's all about maximum flexibility. But wait, it gets even a little more nuanced than that. That whole community cookbook rule isn't always applied the same way. You see, copyleft licenses themselves actually come in two main flavors: strong and weak. And the difference is all about scope. A strong copyleft license, like the GPL, is often called viral. If you use even a tiny piece of it, your entire project, the whole shebang, has to adopt that same open source license. A weak copyleft license is more targeted. It only requires you to share back the changes you made to the original open source part. The rest of your project can stay proprietary. So, with all these different rules floating around, how do you actually use this stuff without getting into legal hot water? Well, this brings us to the very real-world challenges of compliance and compatibility. Look, when you use open source code, you're basically agreeing to a contract. There are some core things you've got to do. You almost always have to give credit to the original author. You have to keep the copyright notices, you have to include the original license text, and if it's a copyleft license, you have to document your changes and, this is the big one, make your modified source code available to other people. It's all about respecting the work and the rules of the original creators.
And all of this leads to a super practical and really important question for any developer out there. Can you actually mix and match code from different licenses in the same project?
Well, the answer is a classic, it depends. Permissive licenses, like MIT, they're kind of the social butterflies of the licensing world. They get along with pretty much everyone. But the moment you introduce code with a strong copyleft license like the GPL into your project, it takes over. The entire combined project must then be distributed under the GPL. That's not a choice, it's a requirement.
Okay, let's tie this all together in our final section. In the world we live in today, no piece of software is an island. It's built from countless other pieces, forming what we call a complex supply chain.
And the scale of this is just staggering. A single modern app isn't just one block of code. It's an assembly of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of different open source libraries and components, and every single one has its own license and its own rules. Trying to manage all that is a huge, huge challenge.
So how in the world do you manage it? Well, the industry's answer is something called a software bill of materials, or an SBOM. And it's exactly what it sounds like, a detailed ingredients list for your software. It tells you every single component you're using, which is absolutely critical for managing both security and license compliance. So, as we wrap this up, here's a final thought for you. Every single piece of software we build today is standing on the shoulders of giants, on decades of collaborative, open work. So the real question isn't just about what licenses you can use, it's about how you will choose to participate in and respect this incredible ecosystem.